Welcome in, everybody. The Rocket League action is about to get hot and heavy. 2 spots have opened up here for the CECC May Madness coming up in Texas. And Taco, we got 2 fiery matches to see who's going to take those spots.
Yeah, we're whittled down between 2 brackets, 4 teams to be able to determine who gets on in. 2 teams, the winner of each of these finals that we do have within bracket 1 and bracket 2, get a chance in. Of course, there are some outside paths, that teams can take to get in, but for the most part, this is the golden opportunity. They work through stacked brackets. We've seen the seeds. We've seen all these teams that entered in. The fact that we do have St. Clair and Cumberland first match, to no surprise of anyone, some of the top teams in CRL, they're having to duke it out. They've had to go through kind of these extra national affairs here to be able to get in. So, of course, naturally, we can see these 2 teams in here with the lovely field colors, something we don't see nearly enough of.
Yeah, St. Clair get their green side, Cumberland get their red, and Arju gets the first goal. So it feels like Christmas, and Arju awarded the first present.
It is fairly Christmassy, and I think a present like that from Arju is always kind of nice. He's not the player you want behind the ball if you're the Cumberland defense when they're taking these shots, but he's probably going to be behind the ball on a lot of these shots. He's really been such a game changer. You take a team that is 2/3 the CRL defending world champions based on that last LAN appearance they made, and then add in Arju, arguably one of the best collegiate players in all of Europe for Genoa, as he's going to make a nice save, and you have a deadly combination. But Cumberland, certainly no slouches either.
Yeah, because you consider this is also the last chance qualifier. These are teams that we're hyping up to be nearly the top of the collegiate echelon, yet they're at the final stage to qualify for LAN. So again, when we talk about the qualifying route here in the last chance, it has been a hard road. And of course, the last stop is as tough as it gets.
And I mean, as you mentioned, our second chance qualifier here, more or less, is going to be against, on the second leg, Northwood and Davenport, 2 teams that lost in the Midwest qualifier, the most direct way to qualify to Illinois State. So stuff like that really just pops out of nowhere and says, oh, wow, really, yeah, these teams can really just take a loss out of nowhere. And for the most part, it seems like Cumberland, they're not sitting down and taking a loss. They have a first goal, and ever since then, it seems like they're the ones asking a majority of the question, though St. Clair still remaining firm on the back line. And even though they might be diving in a bit too late on some of these challenges, another one goes back to their corner.
Yeah, Sai's going to do their best, though, to control this off the ceiling. Midfield challenge comes in quickly from Cumberland. They're doing their best to try to control the game after conceding the first one, and even gunning down the barrel of a St. Clair team who has won some recent CRL Opens, wants to gun in for this chance. You've got Arju with the Evo tag, who had highlights in the latest RLCS Major stream today. So that is the kind of talents that you were trying to get past.
And especially not going to be necessarily an impossible task. Plenty of teams have been able to do quite a lot against this team. The one thing I will say about St. Clair is that they're not necessarily a team that are going to 4-0 everyone they play, but they always find a way down the stretch to clutch it out. They are an incredibly clutch team based on how well they performed in the CRL ecosystem. So naturally, when it comes to CECC and these qualifiers, you'd expect the same level of class, but you never really know how these warm-ups go, if these guys are as warmed up as they possibly could be, or really if they have the game plan that they want to bring against Cumberland like they have in the past.
Tell you what, both teams looking warmed up, especially with a situation where Jazzy is slamming that ball in front for their team to score. But with no one having that finishing factor, Next shows off on the other end.
And I do like also Polar just bonking that last player. You don't really quite see it on the camera, but on the wide angle, if you're watching from the sidelines, you can see Polar immediately cut across. It's one thing that's actually really good about Cumberland. They're all incredibly mechanical. They all definitely have that star quality to be able to take the baton and lead the offense. But they're also not afraid of just saying, oh, you need one player to get bumped out of the way? Don't worry, I'll just chase them to the ends of the earth and we'll finally clear a path for you.
It's that off-the-ball play that is so pivotal sometimes, so impactful. Some players would call it cringe, but others know it's well ingrained in the meta, and it's not going anywhere. Arju has Jazzy to do just that onto Polar and repay the favor.
Well, some Cumberland fans might cringe at this for different reasons, but certainly it has something to do with the bump play. Poor Jazzy making Polar's life so difficult, and yet still gets a save, though, when you have 2 players crashing down the ball and you're coming from the inside of your goal trying to peek it out. It's just not really going to happen. Unfortunately, that is just an unsavable situation. That one less so, though, still took some doing.
Ooh, maybe strung along some palpitations as well in the heart there for Cumberland, but now in the heat of it, they are. Ball lost dangerously in front of their net. Next shows no issues, though, corralling that away. And Next was my star player. I was watch partying these teams on Tuesday to get to this point, and Next was everywhere. He has a freestyler history, but his mechanics seem to always be on display.
Something that I think it was Verge a while back tweeted out that he expects freestylers to be the next best competitive players, or at least have the highest potential, because they are already someone who grasps the most difficult part of the game in terms of mechanics, just about using them in kind of a decent way that doesn't really collide up and clog up the rotation within threes. I feel like Nex is exactly the synthesis of everything he was talking about, especially in the collegiate scene. Though Jazzy, I mean, he's got some skills too, maybe not on the connection there. Looks like Polar doesn't want to get him to see that double tap off the ground.
Ooh, Side decides to bring this to the ground. Arju picks up the remnants of it, and a challenge to the ceiling wins out for St. Clair as they keep Cumberland back on their own line. Next, trying to guard the backboard, but finds themselves on the wrong side.
It's a tough one from Knight there. I understand what he's going for. I think as he approaches, he wants to pinch it to the sideline, then realizes actually the St. Clair player there. So maybe if I just get underneath it, it'll pop up. I can chase it, but if you don't angle it right, it pops straight on out. And who else is going to jump on it than St. Clair? They're always there to make sure that if you make a mistake, it's going to the back of your net.
Definitely felt like the boost situation was getting worse and worse as well for Cumberland, and so St. Clair able to sniff that out and punish where necessary. Arju nearly gets ahead of that 50-50, but a couple more clears and it feels like the job is done in game one, at least, as this is best of 7. The battle may be nearly over for St. Clair, but the war far from done.
And even right now, this game, you know, can always be a little bit wily, especially with the goal near the end. Cumberland is no stranger to some clutch playmaking. They played against Concord within some championships within the CECC ecosystem already. They were not able to win that one, but they certainly gave them a run for their money. Had several clutch moments in this one, so I think St. Clair understands that. They're playing against the clock as much as their opponents, as they're going to take probably one of their last forays forward if they're not careful.
Oh, and Arju needed to be a little more careful there. Put it in Polar's breadbasket, but the follow-up shot just not enough. Naya, it's a soft touch that the defense handles well, and the defense handled this match pretty well when it comes to St. Clair, only conceding 1 in their win against Cumberland.
That's a solid performance. And what you'd expect out of St. Clair, this is, for some people, one of the #1 teams in the nation based on how they're playing. And Northwood, obviously, is always in the conversation, but St. Clair, I feel like, has been readying up, making Canada proud, and obviously a lot of Europe proud as well with the import roster. I think Cumberland definitely got overwhelmed a bit, but they're certainly not in too shabby of company. All the top teams, I think, struggle against playing against St. Clair, but for the most part, you can see the formula down the stretch. Next gets on the goal, and he's definitely someone you want to activate as frequently as possible.
Absolutely. He's got that 1 goal for 4 shots, wants to bring that efficiency up, or at least the number of chances up, as that shot quality always coming through for Next. Funny that we mentioned St. Clair bringing Canada and Europe proud. I think 5 of our 6 players there on the field are Europe candidates here competing in the North American CRL or collegiate landscape here for CECC, of course. And it's amazing to see all the talent being integrated into this competition.
Yeah, and especially since we have even players, I've gotten DMs or Discord messages saying, hey, like, I'm in OCE, you know, I'm in the pro scene, like, I want to try to find some form of coming home to the US, or not necessarily home, but coming home at least to get some college experience and play in CRL. But, you know, it's kind of rare, especially since all the top teams already have quality rosters. These are 2 of them. So, you know, keep searching, always some scholarship out there, but at least for right now, it's going to take a while, even if you do find a team, to get to the top and trying to get even closer to that grand prize, get into that main event. This LCQ game number 2 between St. Clair and Cumberland now underway, and explosively so.
Yeah, why not? A couple demos off the kickoff, and nearly a goal there for Next. So one player we talked about getting into the fold, getting those goals. You talked about searching and finding the right kind of team, and Next and Polar very much the team to do so, going from the Harrisburg with the TC third to now the Nightya third on Cumberland, and have done so well in their recent events. So a lot of top 8s in that high-level collegiate competition, and, well, just trying to be the top of the competition against the likes of St. Clair.
It has to feel so vindicating, especially when it comes to Polar. He's been kind of a journeyman. He came in, signed with Nichols, along with Pyros and K-Frost, and then he was able to then come across as he makes a save onto Harrisburg, thinking that's going to be it, but then him and Nex found that connection, saying, all right, well, this one isn't going to work out. Maybe let's try Cumberland and find Naya, and it just clicks. Already top 8 team in the country within CRL, making the national championship, and now they have a decent chance of going even further. Problem is, you got to get some clears. Eventually, it's going to be Arju.
It just feels like this waning pressure, this possession that is everlasting of St. Clair has worked Cumberland to their ends. It's teased this rope to just fall apart. Those are the moments that St. Clair rise up and punish. Starting the game off right. Solid kickoff as well. Polar maybe smart to play it slow, but eventually they need a touch on this ball. Nightya turns it around, rips the shot, and Polar can't find the goalie bump in time.
But I like that back pass. Sai steals it off his hood. That's all the way downfield. Luckily, Polar able to just doink that one back into the midfield, but my goodness, it's so explosive on this field. Every single time it looks like you even have a little bit of a gap you can open up into, it gets closed. And even worse, it might get countered immediately. Speaking of, weird deflection of Polar. He doesn't need a lot of boost to hit the double. No siree, 1-1.
There it is. The equalizer is here for Cumberland. Polar beats side to the ball. No boost. Well, maybe just remnants. Just an ounce to get them to that downward shot.
Man, I love those setups because it really did have to be like that. He jumped with that for basically 20 boosts. So you have enough to get to the ball, and after that, it's just pure momentum. You're hoping your just inertia is great enough, and Cumberland's hoping that their inertia can at least take them through a defender or two. There's one demo from Polar. Problem is the second player, Jazzy, ready for that touch as Cumberland understands that they've answered back, they've reset everything, and it's just about making sure you stay aggressive without being too reckless. Speaking of, 2 players for St. Clair around that last one. Luckily, that is not on target.
Things get a little scary, but they'll get a little less hairy now. The Nex is off the field with that demolition. Strong redirect towards the net. Follow up there. Sends a bullet from Arju off the corner at the base of the play, and this ball will not slow. 5th gear, full tilt across the field. And including in that is the shot from Nex.
I wasn't even sure if this was on purpose. I saw Knight come in. I'm thinking, well, that is shootable. But no, he leans around it. And then at the last minute, tilts his car forward, gets the extra power. Nex knows he doesn't actually have to blast this one. No one on St. Clair ready for it. That's the vision that I'm looking for from Cumberland. They're all really mechanical. But what makes all good teams great is plays like that.
Yeah, the teamwork coming through. And the cherry on top for me is they're activating Nex, right? Again, that's your striker that is going to send maybe the best shot quality. Nothing, absolutely, to take away from Polar and Nightya, but again, having watched their qualifier run to this final spot back in Tuesday, Nex was their star striker. Maybe not their star savior, though. He ends up behind the play this time.
Has one of those awkward timing moments. Nex is moving forward, realizes he doesn't have the boost. Okay, I can get the boost there. All right, Arju's already beaten me. Knight is turning around because he knows Nex has it, and suddenly he doesn't know anything because the ball is right past, and it's just that awkward moment. Of course, St. Clair is not going to be sitting around. They're not going to question why the rotation's out of whack. They're just going to score regardless. A little bit of a giveaway. Got to be tilting, but nothing to really be able to throw your controller over. Just resetting everything back to neutral. Maybe not for long, though. Jazzy sniffing around the back post, but he's not quick enough.
And now we're getting to the point where St. Clair Green are going to be a little upset they're not scoring on some of these endeavors. A lot of shaky situations here for Cumberland on their own goal line, but be happy to survive that time around. Nex defeated by his side, despite the boost diff being in Nex's favor. Side just gets the better of that 50-50. Sometimes it's what you do on those challenges, whether you have boost or not.
Jazzy so early for that. I don't think he has another touch, but that's exactly why Arju just comes screaming on in from the back line. Sent right forward again by Nex. Might actually find its way to Knight, looking for Nex for the connection again, but even he doesn't want to jump for this one. The ideas are there for Cumberland, but not necessarily in the execution. They're not even getting those demos. Maybe they just go for the finesse instead. Clever touch by Nex, but it's still going to run to the wall on that near post.
Polar might have had it even after the bump, but that's not the case. Arju sends the shot towards the net, and now here comes a tic-tac-toe for Cumberland. They're working Broadway Street. Almost the last pass ends up in the shot, but instead it gets away from them. Polar with the challenge up the ceiling, and this could provide fruits of their labor. The possession leaning towards Cumberland now, favoring them, which is definitely a different spot compared to their last game where St. Clair won.
One thing I'm noticing about Polar is how often he's on zero boost, and yet it doesn't affect him. He still takes a good angle. He's just great with positioning. He's a smart player, and it's certainly helping to lock in St. Clair. Problem is, on the defense, you got to do the same thing. Kind of awkward jump, minimal boost from Cumberland. As Nex picks up the corner boost, but is not even able to get that read off. Kind of an awkward ending to game number 2, right, as you can tell, and maybe the nerves are just going to start picking up. Sweaty controllers could lead to missed inputs. Doesn't seem to be the case for St. Clair. They're strategically building up, looking for bumps, but not getting the fake.
I almost thought that Jazzy was going for the sidewall. It ends up in the give and go that kind of presents no results. Arju, just a demon in the corner, beating out Naya to that ball, following up with the demolition. It is truly demon mode for him. And now Jazzy weathering the bumps, slow play on the ball. Maybe in this final 10 seconds, St. Clair finds something towards the net, but the ball's stuck like glue to the wall. No one can rip it off, whether it moves from east to west or wherever. This ball nearly killed for overtime. One last effort from Nex will reach the ground.
And that was even a weird bounce off the corner. I thought that might have been a bounce out, and you can tell St. Clair didn't want to take the chance. He just cushions it down, and now after that pinball of a kickoff, we actually have Nex in space. That's the last thing St. Clair wants. He's past one. He's dancing past everybody. The air dribble bump connects. Cumberland get a game back.
Nex goes from shot taker to homing missile, leaves that ball immediately on the beat of Jazzy, and we all knew in that moment, Cy was done for. Cumberland equalize on the series.
There's really only so much you could do in that scenario. You see the first player go up, and there's the panic, at least for me as a defender when I'm playing threes. You see the moment where a player dives in, and it looks like they're going for the air dribble, and then they fake, and you realize, I cannot get to this. You're going to have to save me, player in the back. And then a 1v1, usually it's going to end with a bump. Really well done by Nex. It's pure finesse, but it's something that also shows that they can stay in this game. St. Clair has steamrolled over like 99% of all teams within collegiate this semester, and yet Cumberland's hanging with them, taking games, and I do like that immediate response. They take a tough game. They're still giving away the occasional goofy goal, but they've pretty much answered most of the questions I had about how well they could hang with this squad. Now it's just about continuing to apply that in game 3.
I want them to be resilient as well. They're really hanging with the squad, but like you said, there's those awkward moments. They just kind of get panicky on their own defensive line. They'll prioritize boost over ball, and the communication doesn't seem to be there. This one, I don't think they ever got set from the beginning.
Yeah, it's a tough one, specifically because Sai wants to carry through on this one. He gets the boost and then immediately dives down and actually gets the pass almost. It looked like he almost got the deflection, or at least threatened it enough to deflect off the defender. Either way, certainly something that Cumberland realizes, oh, so there's not a singular second we can let down our guard. Otherwise, they're just going to pull out something weird like that, or maybe immediate like this. I was a little bit worried, but looks like Polar is able to get that deflection.
Yeah, it's as if not only on the possessions of St. Clair, you have to be purely disciplined in your defensive rotation, but yeah, on the kickoff too. In fact, that's the most dangerous moment. However, the double demolition followed with the read off the ground from Polar gets them across the field and in.
It's like a dodgeball tactic. You lob the ball up high, everyone looks to the sky, and your ball cam cannot detect the heat-seeking missile that is coming straight for you. Nex won the game with a bump, and this time he's tied up this one inadvertently. We're getting rid of a defender. Being able to take care of everything on the ground sometimes is all you really need. You just need to be able to have that path cleared, or you just be Jazzy going straight down the middle with a flip reset, though not quite powerful enough.
Powerful, not damaging enough the way that double demolition was. Like you said, many of these players as mechanical as the next, but you gotta kind of just move on. Bump cars, clear the path. Almost a path for that corner shot from Arju, saved there by Polar. Extra space once again, but closing the gap is St. Clair. That's part of their win condition, cutting down on that space that Nex is trying to present.
And now Nex has found his way out. Problem is he can only find a Knight with minimal boost. Sai able to cut on in on this one. Nex looks like he is confident enough to challenge. Knight with a corner booster and then a side boost, attempted stealing. He's going to get demoed, and that's probably the only reason Cumberland isn't marching forward a bit more confidently. You can see their moments where maybe their eyes start to shimmer a bit. They get a little bit over-eager. They have an attack going, and St. Clair is able to just swipe it away and continue to put weird balls in. He has to double that one off his ground on his own half just to be able to get it somewhat out of his half.
Surprised the double came through. They were taking advantage of Nex's first touch being a little too far away from them, but then they converted it into that double tap, presenting nearly the shot chance on the follow-up. That's the thing about playing against St. Clair. You make one little mistake, the touch goes a little too far, and then all of a sudden they're dunking in your face. Nex tries to keep that space close between him and the ball. That touch, though, goes out to Sai. He's got 50 in the tank to send to Jazzy.
Polar trying to test Arju, and that's going to be really confusing as no one touches the read, but leaning over backwards, I suppose you should get a bit more strategic, but maybe you should get a bit more violent, at least if you're Jazzy. Off-ball demo means that he is able to go on forward, though, as always, I always love to compliment Polar. We don't say as much about him always, but positionally, he is such a staple in this rotation, constantly shutting down a lot of these St. Clair attacks.
Jazzy on the backboard position there is going to find clearance across the field. Sai just getting beat there from the mark from Polar. Arju, wave dash, just a little extra speed, wants to be centered instead. The ball flies free after the demolition. These bumps and demos have presented opportunities to either team, but in that case, it kind of just stalled the play. Put a pause on the attack for Cumberland to regain.
That's a tough read for Sai, which means Arju is going to have to be called into action, but so is Polar. That's actually a hefty one right into next. He's going to call off Nightya, though I think at both times they were going for it. I don't think there was really a clear path forward, which is why you got to forge a new one. Maybe off the corner, though Knight's going to turn around. That's an open net. Next needs to get back. No more boost. The last of it, he gets one save. Where's a second? Drop down into Sai. It's a brilliant touch away by Nightya to keep things clear, at least for now. One more time, Polar. You got to touch it. He simply cannot.
The interference was there on the infield passing, but at a certain point, you've been exacerbated. Next gets the car instead of the ball, and Sai just has to tap it down.
It's one of those moments you talked about it earlier. The boost conservation is so difficult for Cumberland is not only are St. Clair going through threatening demos, they're also, I would say, pretty organized, but something went wrong. A miscommunication, disconnected controller. All I know is it doesn't get easier than that.
Oh no! I don't hate the strategy, but boy, when it burns you, it looks bad. Kickoff tactics get wilder and wilder every day, Taka.
I think that was a moment where they expected Nex to not read that in time, but I think he might have turned off a bit too quick, or maybe they predicted the fake because the player in the back wasn't moving. And so Nex was saying, I'm not going to jump into this. I'm just going to plow through and see what happens. And St. Clair just got to throw your hands up, you laugh, you're like, all right, well, next time we got to disguise that maybe a little bit better, but either way, we've seen several times now where a team gets a goal and then immediately gets wiped out. Maybe they can get one back. Jazzy from the ceiling with his own double off the post and denied.
Now, Jazzy's just going to be so frustrated that didn't go in. They basically got a gimme with the bump, having them lunged into that position. Now, in this case, Sai, after peeling off the play, had an open look instead. So, at this point for St. Clair, it's about corralling in the space where they can score from these elbow shots. And for Cumberland, it's about sending it across the midfield. Offensive rotating attackers there from St. Clair. In this case, they do find a little bit of space. Sai makes a near save off the post, and that follow just not good enough.
Big fan of how Cumberland are communicating. A couple times now I've been seeing it. They're sending the player on the ground to challenge any air dribble, as Arju doesn't really care. He's just going to go for pogo. Why not? You know what? You have that much confidence. It's not necessarily if you can score, it's just if you have enough space, if anything. Jazzy from a near post. Clever beat, and that's the lead.
You get the feeling when there's pogos, a team has a certain amount of confidence that they're going to find a way to score. They were the earliest to these challenges. It just set up Jazzy for success. And Cumberland, you got to find maybe a kickoff goal like you did earlier or something in the next 23.
And they're doing very well shutting down pretty much all the expected avenues. I feel like a couple times they've been kind of shutting down St. Clair so cleverly. And then when you see the really unconventional ones, those are the ones that get through. Other than that, or they just go for speed or suffocation on these rotations. Either way, seems like Cumberland, they're gasping for air, just trying to stay alive in this one. They're going to miss a crucial clear. Now with that one, I don't know if they have enough time to get forward, especially with St. Clair, making sure this has to go coast to coast. Next, beating on the aerial. Polar trying to tap it up. He's getting harassed. Knight is trying to keep it around, and even with that flick, I think Arju has that one read. Sai most likely going to try to spike that down, but I suppose they like to live dangerously, Pyro.
Why not? Front flick there from Naya. And, he's the one with the boost to catch the ball. At a certain point, you got to feel like we're in purgatory. No matter what, Cumberland are headed down under. St. Clair take game number 3 to take the advantage in the series. And I feel like, Taco, if it's one thing I learned out of this series, it's that Cumberland will fight to the bitter end. For St. Clair, you're never really in the clear.
No, and that's especially seen when we look at the statistics on this one. 11 shots for St. Clair, 4 for Cumberland. So yeah, you have offense and you have like pretty good scoring options, but most of the time it's one of these moments where when St. Clair locks in, it's kind of like you have a quick glimpse at goal, and if you're like, I don't trust that shot, okay, well, you might not get another one for the next 30, 40 seconds because they're that good at closing it down. You have to be able to take all of your angles. You have to be able to peak when they do give you space, and I think in the prior games they were doing that last one, they just really did not have any opportunity. St. Clair was all over them, and this is where I think you start to get worried. If St. Clair is able to lock in and find a strategy that consistent, then you're going to need a lot more than just the meager minute, it feels like, to come up with a worthwhile response. But maybe they did. Who knows how Cumberland and Coach Claypool are going to work.
Who knows? Maybe they'll get another kickoff goal to almost packaged to them for free. But as we get into game number 4, it's important for Cumberland to respond effectively and early. This one from Sai left for Arju. Jazzy plays instead for possession, but Cumberland learning that each game presents its new threats from St. Clair.
They're going for the flip reset into what looked like almost like a Mactive, not catch, but like a spike down. I don't even know how they set that one up, but I don't question it. It all works for St. Clair in the end, and maybe not on every attack, but they're certainly getting creative with it. That would be a crazy dish. Where is the defense? Arju going all by himself from 0 angle, post in.
Wait, this is a ridiculous angle. I can't imagine any of my teammates in rank, which doesn't matter anyway. It's not even close to these players getting that angle, but that is lovely from Arju. The absence of defenders, he had to score.
That's a bit of a weird one for Cumberland, is everyone was kind of splayed out to the wind. They didn't really know where they needed to be, and maybe St. Clair doesn't either. Off the kickoff, that's a lead block. Next dances past one, but also collides quickly and briefly with the post. So still going to be something that St. Clair can deal with for the most part, as a little fake coming in. I think Jazzy completely sent Nex flying.
Well, Nex is now their lead blocker, but in order for that to be effective, Polar has to get past the first. Instead, these early aerial challenges have been incredibly effective for St. Clair. I think Cumberland have done a great job with space and time in the air, but that's just not been provided, and it won't be provided on this shot for Arju.
Poor Polar is coming back with no boost. You're thinking, oh, what's the odds size going to shoot that? Well, he's not. He will pass it, though. Jazzy misses over the top. That's actually the best possible option, because that shot was covered. The pass on the backboard was not. Arju going to reap another one, shooting 66% on this game, and really, he's no mystery to that type of efficiency for this roster.
Not whatsoever. And one thing I'm noticing about St. Clair is they normally prioritize that follow-up effort, that secondary one, because more than likely your team's comms are crisp, and more than likely Cumberland are trying to save that first shot. You've got most of your goals from pressure, long possessions, and that follow-up chance is going to be quite open. Or the first one. Why not? Doomsday dish for Jazzy.
And sometimes you just get scooped up, especially when Polar is fighting on 0 boost, also getting bumped, also going backwards, also not being able to collect any pads on the way. You could just make a list of the worst possible scenarios and type of bewilderment that could befall you, and it would pretty much be that last play. But I don't think it's really going to hurt them too much, at least if they get a free gift here. I'm going to say not necessarily this is a game you need to write off, but 3 goals in the first 2 minutes here is one thing, but maybe cutting it back to 2 is a whole other.
Yeah, this is one of those plays once again for St. Clair that I don't know if they'll try again, but I didn't think they would after the last game's mishap, so here we are. But even for Cumberland, it's not necessarily a confidence boost. Yeah, you kind of thread the needle there, good quick reaction, but maybe you need a solid play out of Nex, like that one from the ceiling. Follow-up shot from Nightya does find Arju. And now Cumberland starting to ask for a little more respect from the defense of St. Clair. It's off the backboard again, and Nightya barred down and in.
I would say St. Clair-esque based on how a lot of these goals are going in, but I love this. The cherry picker by Polar puts it perfectly on the backboard. Where have we seen that before? But even better than that, Knight still has to make sure that goes in. It might be flailing, but those are 2 defenders in net. You put it anywhere else, probably not going on in. Cumberland slowly clawing their way back after a really rough start, but that's exactly why we always preach. It is not how you start these games. It really is how you finish.
And that's the story for Cumberland every single game. Just when you think St. Clair are out of the woods, instead, they're in the thick of it. That's Polar there, contesting the ball in the corner. Actually, everybody from Cumberland. It's a little bit of a family gathering here, a reunion, just to give someone the ball, have someone toss the rock across. We'll be able to do that with the demolition. Following up on that smoke screen is Nightya. Take the ball to the infield, trying to get the bump across as well. Next barrels in for the shot. That's denied. St. Clair look a little spread out on defense, and Cumberland opportune to pounce, but that shot just won't make it.
Yeah, Arju squinting his eyes a little bit, saying, wait a minute, I know where this is going. Pretty much man-marking Nex in the midfield to block out that pass. And really the only reason that's not an open shot. So despite Cumberland trying to find that clever way through, can't quite do it. Maybe off a deflection, how about Polar with a demo to lead the way. Nightya looking through the smoke, but he can't beat out Arju. Way farther away from the read. He can't beat him on the second attempt, though. That's why Sai is also backing things up. I think St. Clair, kind of the alarm bell is starting to signal a bit. They need to tighten up on defense. You can almost smell Cumberland getting closer and closer.
It's like they're an army running out of reinforcements. Is Arju the last flank remaining here as he makes the save on low boost? Maybe not. Jazzy had no boost, but is there on the backboard. Oh, I knew the redirect was coming, and I thought it would go in. Naya will make sure that ball finds its destination.
Well, you're seeing exactly why 3v3 is a full team game. Everybody involved on this one to just keep the ball in a dangerous area. Arju does his job. He gets the save, but sometimes you need to do extra duty, pull a little overtime, and get a second. He could not recover in time, and after being down 3-0 about honestly 90 seconds ago, we are suddenly looking at a tie score. St. Clair might be sitting a little bit further forward in their seats into the true gamer position.
Yeah, you talk about squinting their eyes. They're making sure they see every pixel on that monitor. Hate to say it, but this comeback all started from that goofy kickoff, the same one that could have been cleaned up from the last game. Maybe creative ways in Rocket League aren't the route. It's standard gameplay from here on out for St. Clair.
That's a difficult part of kind of this creative kickoffs. A lot of them regard trying to get in a feint or some sort of misdirection, but there is always an avenue where if someone just doesn't want to play by your rules and just hits it slightly differently, yeah, you can't just give up a free goal, and that's twice now. Maybe something to consider. Might not seem like a huge factor in the grand scheme of things, but 1 or 2 goals can decide games, can decide a whole entire series. I think both these teams are acutely aware of that, which is why they do not want Psy going through uncontested. Another block, and we're back to mid.
Like the second that St. Clair get the balance on their side, another demo comes in for Cumberland, clearing the path ahead. And that's exactly what sparks the counterattack, completed by Nex.
And I love the finish on this one. Look, Psy misses that touch off the backboard. Arju's on the left side, so is Psy. The only place you can put that without the recovery save is exactly where he did. Next, showing that striker mentality we have touched on. He might be the flashiest player, but also necessarily one that has to be called into defense in weird situations. 4 players committing on that last kickoff, and maybe it's exactly what the doctor ordered. Naya, weird read. Arju, slap down, no shot. It's into Psy off the post, off the other post. Cumberland somehow going to be surviving that onslaught. What an ending to a spectacular comeback.
Jaw is on the ground. I just picked it up for the broadcast, so you guys didn't have to see it, but Cumberland survived by the skin of their teeth. Guess how long they led during that game? About 16 seconds. And, well, that was all that was needed. St. Clair are going to feel like they dropped the bar. Going to feel frustrated because not only did they give up that huge deficit that Cumberland had, they also just couldn't finish on that last shot.
And they did really everything right. I'm not even going to put that on side because, again, Cumberland are a smart team in that they obviously have to mark down the goal, but part of playing good defense is understanding that if a ball goes middle, like RG dropped down, get someone to rush that as fast as possible because the very least you want the defender to be able to be taking away most of the options. And they did just enough that shot went so wide that it hit off the post, and the deflection luckily did not go straight in to the Cumberland net. Regardless of the theatrics, it's a well-worked game, and it just shows that, yes, St. Clair, I know we've seen the cams in their facilities. They're probably streaming this match right now as best they can, or at least trying to get spectators in for most of them. But for the most part, they are able to take down any team, but they do have a tendency occasionally to take the foot off the gas. Maybe they need to reapply that with a lead foot in this next one.
Listen, everyone's looking to take their foot, that step closer to Texas. That's what this is all about. The long road this week to get to CECC May Madness. Both teams now halfway done with that journey.
For some teams, they don't really have too many options, especially for Cumberland. This is the second time they're in a grand final that actually does result in a qualification spot. So to be able to drop one opportunity against Concord in the South Regional and then eventually go to this one and again lose, I mean, that'd be brutal, especially for a team that is trying not to just play second fiddle to these top teams. They want to prove that they're among the best of the best. And honestly, if you want that type of competition, this is more or less the exact team you'd want to play against to be able to prove your own quality.
Yeah, if you like recency bias, both these teams top 4 in the last CRL Open. And yeah, that taco, that one goes in.
That one made me almost fall out of my chair. I'm not really sure what happened here. So I did get a bump, respectively, but that is a difficult finish. It looked a bit more awkward, but I think when you kind of zoom on in, that's a pretty graceful way to recover really anything you could do except for that exact touch. And despite all that, Cumberland just going to have to shake their heads and say, sure, I guess that one's just going to go right on in.
I feel bad for Polar. I mean, it was positioned on the goal line. Nearly expected the shot from St. Clair. Just couldn't make the stop. Got caught too far forward. And sometimes that is the case for Cumberland. A lot of the successes of St. Clair have been from that possession and pressure and just culminating in that balance of am I too far forward, am I too far behind, and Cumberland struggling to toe that line.
Arju off the ceiling, trying to get the reset. He might also still fall. You can see Knight just kind of staring, saying, please, someone else challenge. From my angle, I have no idea. And maybe Jazz doesn't have any idea on this one from Polar. I think he's trying to catch it on the reset. He's going to fail at that. So here comes the green side again next. Needs a catch, and he does get it. Definitely a very methodical approach on defense from both sides to start this game.
Indeed it is. And Knight is going to leave that for the other team. Cumberland seemed anchored on their own red end. Seemingly no problem with it. They smell blood in the water. It's from their side, and they're ready to get a bit ravenous on the green end. Jazzy, though, doesn't mind. Enjoys taking the time on that ball. Almost a flip reset double from the corner. Missed the second touch. Just sends it right to mid for side. A double tap. That's right past the defense and in.
That's one of those awkward moments. If you're watching Polar throughout this play, he's in the midfield. He realizes Nex does not have it. He tries to reverse an aerial, but the moment Sai gets that first touch, it's on target, and you know it's going to be in. Sai is always going to deliver on that one, much like Polar was earlier on in the series. Right at halftime, St. Clair seeming like they're doing a similar performance last game. This time it's just about not giving up the lead. A fake from Polar might not be what they needed in that moment. It's not going to work out. This is the final third player, not able to put the hammer down. Maybe try number two with an air dribble bump. Also, not quite going to connect in the way that they intended.
I think Cumberland are going to be a little upset. They're going to feel like they were owed that kickoff goal. I mean, they got one in the last 2 games each, and what, St. Clair, you're not going to give them that one either? Come on now. Instead, St. Clair want to undo their mistakes, pull out the eraser and sharpen the pencil right down and tack on the tally for more shots and goals.
St. Clair directors in their ears saying, remember, we are not running a charity. This is a private university. We have to step this up a little bit. So let's make sure that we do get these saves away and not give up anything easy off the kickoff or off the backboard. But Arju didn't get that memo. He's going to miss the first one. Does not on the second. Next is looking for a demo, but the shot never even came in.
Next does grab that boost, so ask for Polar to enter the fold instead. Arju a nice catch and has no opportunity to release. There's already pressure from Naitya on that side while Arju delicately offset above 2 defenders, and now the Polar sent away. Sai has time. Flip reset in the air, wants to activate another reset off the post, nearly in, but couldn't single-handedly do it.
And whenever these players are wondering, wait, why are people just diving at the ball constantly? It's because if you don't shut it down, it might happen like that. A double flip reset off your post and in, and even also got the dish if you had maybe a bit more boost in the tank. But regardless if that doesn't go in or not, doesn't really matter from St. Clair's perspective. 2 goals is enough to win, though maybe not enough to feel comfortable, particularly after how the last game ended. Off a deflection, 0 boost. Now you're just going to go for the bump, and next goes forward with full confidence, but now he's going to have to retreat back and a bit of a panic.
At a certain point, you got to risk it, and that's what Knight is doing, flying from the sidewall, looking for a ball touch, maybe even a demolition, a bump, trying to take out St. Clair before they do something like this. Likely the nail in the coffin to give St. Clair their lead in the series.
Nice clean touch from Sai, and he also knows that he doesn't actually have to get a particular touch. He just knows as long as it gets past that first defender, more or less an open net, and that's exactly what it is. Hat trick for Sai, a player that has stepped up at times throughout this series, but definitely throwing it down on this game number 5, trying to take the lead right back. Arju wants in some fun. They don't want to just tick down the clock. They want this to be a morale-boosting win.
It's part of why you see St. Clair with the gold trophy at the end of the tournament, and so many of them, because they have a way of dictating the pace and the control in a game. How many times do we see that scoreboard and Cumberland have less than 5 shots? I mean, this time around they have 3. That's almost non-existent, especially against a team where you concede 4 goals. Statistically impossible to score that many. And Taka, don't start with me about how you can score a goal without having a shot registered, okay? I know, it happens sometimes.
Sometimes you gotta force those own goals, and some people have a power for that, but I don't know if any competitive players really fall for that in the same way. Arju not even gonna give up a last one, so indeed, it's gonna be St. Clair, I would say, righting the ship somewhat. A really rough loss to take in the previous game, and an incredibly dominant one, maybe the way that they intended in the first time. Sai, you know what? There's a shot without him actually technically getting a statistic on.
That's right. Sai had 5 shots registered earlier and will still on his now 4th goal. So there you go, Taco. Someone else that has a knack for forcing own goals as St. Clair go up in the series 3-2. 1 game away from, going to Texas. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Just, one of the largest collegiate lands really all year that we're ever going to get. So it's a lot of pressure riding on these players, which is why we've reached the crucial point in nearly every high-level series that we all know and love. The car change. Polar has left the lobby. He's come back in. He's got to get into his fit. He's got to make sure it's clean, that he can represent his school the best. But also sometimes it just feels a little wrong. Maybe that Fennec preset doesn't look good. Maybe needs the anodized paint. Who really knows? But what I do know is that with this match point, Cumberland cannot screw around too much longer. Best of sevens feel so long up until you get to that midpoint where a team starts to pull away. I definitely see the potential, but it really does feel like if St. Clair gets those early goals, they just run away with it so frequently. That comeback is not necessarily a testament to St. Clair throwing it, but it is something that is incredibly rare. It might be the first time I've seen St. Clair lose after they came out with a lead that large.
I don't know if I saw in particular the car change. I just want to see that save off the kickoff. Cumberland, I feel like the most important thing is to come out the gate strong because that is a scoreless game. Yes, you conceded 4 goals, but you also found nothing on the other side. I guess realistically 3 because they let that last one in, but the point remains. They're looking for points on the board.
Polar flick that one high. Next will be able to get a deflection at the very least, as every single time it seems like St. Clair, they don't even look like they're in the best of positions, but then they just find their way all the way through. Kind of like Arju, not getting the read he looks for, but it still lands its way onto Sai's bumper. Not able to pick out that back post, maybe try number 2. 3-man weave yet again. Jazzy from an angle. Polar, no boost, straight to the ceiling. Double commits, pandemonium in the backfield. No end result for St. Clair. They're playing with their food, but you still gotta put it on target. Another rejection, this time from the bar.
Bar putting in work. Not necessarily in overtime, but that's certainly what it feels like. St. Clair, they're not quite done. Nearly the bar again as Next finds the save. Follow-up shot is there. Polar utilizing nearly every ounce of boost. Make that save. Here comes Next now, looking for an outlet. Tries to find the escape rope for their team. They've got to get out of this dungeon, and they've got to do it quick.
Sai. The air dribble, misses the reset. I think Knight sensed that one, and now he's going to sense a car just ramming the backside, putting him out of position. Gonna have to rely on Polar to get this one back. Late challenge from Sai, and yet he still is able to get a majority of that read. Polar leaves with no boost, and Cumberland again kind of searching for those clever setups, clever touches, and they're really not able to get on. It seems like St. Clair, for the most part, has everything covered, especially here with Arju. Last defender back, still escapes 1, dribbles past the second, and now with the lead blocker, he might have the goal to shoot at. Next going backwards, simply cannot get the save.
Here, it was activated. It was on. It could not
Find the composure, the wherewithal to get away from the violence.
Being able to notice those moments where it says, okay, first man has it. Oh, he doesn't. Oh, well, second does. Oh, he also doesn't have it. And then by the time you look at the third, they're already getting abused. Speaking of the first man, though, Cumberland not able to dive on top of that one before St. Clair gets the save around all the way on the far side. That double connected. Maybe we see a second, but no, on we play. Cumberland's pain will be a little stalled out. Maybe somewhat numbed if that one went in, but of course, Zarju also doing his defensive duties.
Quickly, Polar with the midfield play, drops down, tries to get the touch across. It's Nightya instead. Jazzy inside, nearly double committing on that play. Rounding around the corner, Polar without boost, but yet there's a glowing container in their corner that they couldn't pick up. Next will grab it instead. Nightya with Next, shot off the backboard. Polar wants to dive in for the shot, but Arju dives and saves.
Love the awareness from Arju. He doesn't just really just stands up and kind of square up for that read. He immediately goes to the back post because he knows, I know Polar's good enough to be able to pinpoint that back post shot, so I'm going to get it to the side. But how many times has that also really been the case as we go further and further into this series? All the way to the goal line. It looks like there's no way that can't go out, and yet St. Clair just managed to save anyway.
I'll tell you what, there's one thing different about this Cumberland team is they know they got to leave it all out on the field if they're going to go down in this game. To St. Clair, only 3 shots in the last game, already 8, equaling their opponents in this one. Arju is forced to make yet another save against this Cumberland attack.
Jazzy was really high on that read, but it's actually better because that's exactly where Nex was going with it. Night tries to go the direct path as well, chasing it down, but there's another 2 players going down. Nex fighting for his life on the goal line. It's still going to do enough to delay, but on the back post, Arju is essentially guaranteed.
This feels like gym class or recess bullying. Nex had no boost, no ability to get out. Calling for help, waving the flag. No one comes to the assistance in time.
And sometimes it really just looks like on the dribble, St. Clair's almost turtling up because they know Cumberland is driving as fast as possible. The biggest issue with playing that fast is when you take a 50, it's going to slam against cars and bounce crazily far away. So sometimes the better strategy is just slow down and take that abuse, or at least don't play off the immediate flick. St. Clair's done that twice now, and it's resulted in breakaways. So I don't really know if Cumberland knows that's their best strategy, but at a certain point, you have to keep the accelerator down because you have a minute and 2 goals to cover. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on that land qualification spot.
You're not going to get a kickoff either. Those aren't arriving. Not anymore. Instead, it's just Sai in the midfield, putting a stop to the transition ways here of Cumberland. They cannot get across the field. Stampeded at every effort. Sai wanted to go for boost. Had to turn in the nick of time to get the save. Manages to do so.
Pass into Polar, but Sai saw it coming immediately. He's so literate all the way down the field, off the post, and completing the hat trick is Arju. Certainly putting a cap on this one.
These 2 teams met twice in CRL Opens 2 and 3, and well, St. Clair only was defeated in 1 game against Cumberland. Cumberland may be exceeding expectations with 2 games off them this time around, but it feels like the red carpet now rolled out for a dominant St. Clair green team that is nearing that CECC qual.
Of course, a team that everyone kind of felt was destined, but of course they are theatrical. They love to take the more entertaining route along these series. Certainly a team you'd expect to be at the end, or in a manner such as this, in the biggest collegiate event all year. But no, it's gonna be them just doing it a little bit clunkily, but still in 6 games. GG's to Cumberland. Better luck next time.
Indeed, indeed. Cumberland, this is still a team that, I mean, we would want to see at CECC, yes. Right? We know they can push these top teams about as far as they can go. Admittedly, St. Clair had to make some differences. Early on, we saw the more quick challenging and suffocating pressure come out from St. Clair against players like Nex, because when he was provided the space, he was diming him up. But St. Clair definitely found a way to start to control the pace, continue to whittle away Cumberland on their long possessions, and really dominate on the shot counts too. Cumberland close to turning around there in game 6, but close, not enough.
Yeah, and when you have situations where you are trying to figure out where to get out, I think it can be so tough. And I think Cumberland might have gotten in their own heads there. You can definitely tell down the stretch it was not the cleanest rotation. They were giving up some kind of goofy goals, but I think that's more of a testament of St. Clair's respect that you have to pay them, that you feel like you have to play so frantic and get on the ball immediately, because they are a team that loves to play slow ball, but they're also so mechanical that they'll take advantage of anything. And I think the lethality is definitely a huge reason why, of course, they deservedly are grabbing that land qualification spot.
Well, congratulations. The LCQ run completed for St. Clair Green in their qualification to the CECC May Madness. Can't wait to see them there, but LCQ isn't quite completed. More Rocket League action coming your way. Another LCQ team will be stepping into the CECC qualification. Our next match, Northwood Blue versus Davenport Black, after this break. Welcome back, everybody. You are tuning into the CECC Last Chance Qualifier, and there are actually 2 grand finals happening tonight. If you just joined us, you missed one. St. Clair Green taking down Cumberland University at best of 7 in Game 6. And this one, Taco, we're wondering if it goes the distance after Davenport took down a Ball State. They now face Northwood Blue in the finals.
And not just any Ball State, the new and revamped Ball State, who has made incredibly deep runs within CRL main events for Open number 4. But the other thing that we are seeing with Davenport is that they have getting it's seemingly closer and closer, at least with CRL, within Northwood. We used to joke back in the fall, they kept running into them. They had the same pool over and over and over again. Right now, Northwood, across all competitions that Liquipedia actively tracks, are basically, I think, 7-0 Northwood. So Davenport has taken them to a Game 5 in their most recent CRL meeting, but outside that, we don't know how they're playing. Them beating a Ball State that is playing the best Rocket League they've played in years, I mean, and that's even saying something, is definitely a good omen, but they're playing against, like, pretty much the kingmakers within the scene.
Oh, well, they're on a trip to maybe reach the stars and then some. So Davenport trying to do exactly that, as at the very least, this is a Northwood Blue team that they know very well. That will be the idea to defeat that Goliath today. But I also think about their brackets in that CRL competition. And while they did fall against Northwood Blue, each time they bounced right back and they became kind of the top 8 gladiators, the guardians of top 8, slaying any other team. It's been a little different in the spring, but this 3 squad of Cam, Brock, and Bolte have stuck together all season and honestly look a little more cohesive and better each time I see them.
Yeah, and I think that steady improvement is something that I think I look for all teams. Honestly, the biggest thing I notice about programs and how I speak so effusively about some programs is because they have a decent performance. And instead of just saying like, oh, awesome. All right, well, I guess we just have to do that again. No, they work at it. They really try to grind it out. It shows it's the difference between kind of a club mentality of like, oh, we're just playing in collegiate and yeah, we'll scrim together occasionally or whatever. And like a varsity program where every day you're making sure you keep your hours up, getting your clean touches, getting a lot of scrims in, playing in constant leagues and tournaments, and you iterate and improve upon it. And I feel like Davenport and Northwood are both at that. Northwood's a team that you'd think would just coast on pure talent, but they have Nick, aka Nick RNRL on Twitter, one of the pro coaches within the RLCS team, trialing as their coach, being able to make sure that they continuously improve and don't drop the ball. It's that level of dedication to the craft, which is why this team and also a surging Davenport squad are in our second LCQ final. So kicking it off in game number 1, we'll have to see if Davenport Magic can continue or if Northwood is just the big bad kings of the mountain yet again.
We will see. We go from red to green, red to blue. This time, Northwood Blue and Davenport Black find themselves on the red side and almost on the right side with a squishy save. And nearly on the right side, there we go, of a cross-court clearing shot and goal.
And Creams has left the match, unfortunately, so I'm assuming he either DC'd or he was specifically thinking that we were going to remake lobby, but either way, it is a goal. He left after the goal went in, so I think it's maybe just a frustration there. We'll have to see what's going on with the server later on, but at least for right now, Cam, Bolte, and Brock, that is that very weird name going on. I don't even know how to pronounce 0 and then several asterisks.
Just know that at certain points in the game, it will be Brock O'Clock. Okay, that's all I got to say. But realistically, it was Cam time in their match against Ball State and others on their way to this finals of the LCQ. Cam was all over the place, especially with clutch last-second goals and OT slingers to send them to this point in time. Right now, it's Cam to try to best Zenil on the other end. He's dipped it off well to Brock.
Yeah, and being able to settle that one down is one thing, but you had mentioned that you covered this Davenport team. Cam was the playmaker who's kind of dominating a lot of that Ball State series and also probably a lot of the other ones, and that's really pretty significant, especially considering he was, I would say, maybe outside of Knight, the most dominant West player that we had seen for a long time before his transfer over to Davenport's area and roster. So being able to see him kind of take the reins of the attack is exactly, I think, what all of Davenport was hoping for.
Collegiate guru, no doubt about it. Knows how to compete against the top so many times in years of competition. Could all collect to a qualifying journey here to Texas for May Madness. But they've got to make sure they don't get scored on with goals like this. It looks like the DC or whatever was the reason to leave the lobby was no problem for Creams.
Man, what a touch as well. Bolty and Brock, looks like they're playing that pretty well, but Creams speed flips off the kind of delayed flick, and then instead of hitting it forward, he actually catches it, so it goes straight down. You can see both defenders got to go, wait a minute, that's exactly where I think he wouldn't be able to touch it, but Creams finds a way. One of the best players in all of Collegiate. And even holding that level of a title comes with evidence sometimes, and right there he provides a key piece of it, cutting the lead in half, and now Davenport is out of their fantasy land and realizes, yes, it does appear we have to lock in against Northwood, as always.
And it might just come down to the solo play displays. I mean, it was Bolty with the cross-court clear. It was Cam with that beat on Zanil and the easy follow-up from Brock. And now it's that spectacular play from Creams. Who else is going to be the shining star in the field for game number 1? As it feels like the space is provided for players to make that moment theirs.
And we even had Creams a while back on a Champ League show. Basically a collection of collegiate minds breaking things down, and Creams was a guest, and we talked about this Davenport roster saying, hey, they're getting closer and closer, but they can't catch up to you. And it's because Creams always finishes. He says they're a hyper-aggressive squad, but eventually that does cost them, and I think Creams understood exactly where he needed to be.
Absolutely. Against the aggressive squad, you got to find the right time to punish. Creams capitalizing on that pass from Zanil on the other side of the field. Well done. Cam wants to respond and swiftly flip reset to the opposite post. Saved by Creams. Feels like there's no way around Creams if you're Davenport. This time it is Zanil to pester them. And Creams has this kind of forward-thinking approach where whether I boost or not, I'm going to be in your face.
He's very good at finding his angles. Sometimes it really comes down to having your first idea, and then once that gets taken away, having an escape hatch. And it feels like Creams always has at least 3 or 4. There's people who pre-jump him, try to take these weird 50s, and it always seems like he's able to squeak one by, and maybe he's going to be able to get a hat trick on this next shot because it is open from a distance, but he makes it count. 100% shooting on the field.
I said to myself, I'm done talking about Creams. I've said too much. Okay, maybe I haven't said enough. It's a sharp shot, top corner, and some players just force their way to having their name in the headlights. Davenport started the game quite well, 2-0 to kick things off. The tone that was set is just a shadow of what we see now.
Oh, wow, really nice flip back by Bolty. Problem is that is all the contributions he's going to get outside of actually a boost steal. So Neil going to be lacking for a bit, but it doesn't matter because Hockey still has a dribble all the way downfield to dissipate that pressure. I think the biggest thing about Northwood is that you know their quality is always going to be peak. So giving away any free goals is one thing, but doesn't mean they're completely immune to it themselves. That one looked like a guaranteed goal, but Bolty just could not find the speed or any of the boost remaining to put it in.
That's that finishing factor Davenport needs, and now it's on the other end that it's required. Bolty be the one to dive, but the one defeating Zanil on their approach awaits the lunge there for Cam. It allows him to just send forward and them to respond. Controlling the tempo right now is Northwood, and that's exactly how they like it. Hockey around the corner, Zanil to catch this one and release to the sidewall. Hockey now, once more than just that first touch, climbs nearly above Brock as Brock handles it, ensures the 50-50. Important movement there around the ball to get some kind of challenge on it.
Cam from an angle, looking for Bolty to be able to clear the path, and there was certainly an effort there, but there was also 3 Northwood bodies. Creams trying to do it himself yet again. Yeah, it's team game, but seemingly very minimal trouble being able to get his shots off, and Davenport can't necessarily say the same. Even when they do get those shots off, Northwood, one of the best goal line defense teams that we have really ever seen assembled.
Ooh, well, get on the goal line, all of you, because you're sitting ducks on this shot from Bolty. Sometimes with a minute left and against Northwood, you got to pre-jump for the ball. Bolty, perfect position.
I'm not going to lie, Pyro, when I handed that off to you, I did not think that goal was going to happen immediately, mainly just because I saw the reset, but I'm thinking, well, that's not going to anyone, except player on the back post. I didn't see them, and I guess Northwood's defense did not either. That's a tough one to give up, but maybe it's an easy one to get right back. Creams with a reset goal line save going back around the defender. I have no idea how that one stays out.
Cam finds a way, and this time it's to pick up the pass from Brock. Could it be that Cam-Bolty combo? It is for that attempted shot that reaches the corner. Maybe Northwood just surviving for overtime as they can't quite beat the touches from Davenport. Cam finds the middle, but Brock is defeated, and the ball intercepted well by Northwood. They're in search of extra time. They'll find it.
I really do like that last play from Cam. He went for the inside pass. It got deflected, but it was still in the danger area and not able to actually get around the read and get into a dangerous position. But at the very least, shows Davenport they're not going to be kicked around this game. They have the offensive skill. Certainly does with this man, Cam, looking for the goal line dunk. Cream has the escape hatch. He will take it to the corner, a back pass to preserve the attack, and then kickstart and ignition into something entirely different. Cam double too high to be able to wrangle around it.
Regulation was this bookended performance by Davenport. They started off strong and ended strong, but they're trying to drag that momentum into overtime. They've done well with a couple shots and some nice deflections against Creeves. But Creeves somehow still airborne and sends it in.
I mean, sometimes just undeniable. With a bump, and he's able to get the redirect. Such a place where it just feels like Davenport is secure, everyone's fine, and sometimes when the ball deflects off the first man, you're saying, okay, well, where's the second man? You don't need a second man. Creams has all 4 of the goals.
Couldn't believe it. Saw him airborne. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you can't do that. And he did. Redirect. And under 50 points away, talking from a 1,000-point game. Sometimes you're just on fire, but isn't that almost the Northwood that we always see? It's like hockey's not always in the limelight, yet he's doing so much work for the team, and this time Cream's more than happy to be in the limelight.
Yeah, I think it's one of those moments where you talk about, well, entire teams have to be playing in CRL. You can't just have one player carry the load. And yet, routinely, Creams kind of seems to be the player who scores a vast majority of the goals because he is just such a fun player to play with. I feel like I liken it sometimes with Creams and Zanil, or Hockey and Zanil, sometimes playing just like the quarterback role. And then it's just you have a 7-foot-tall, 4.2 40-yard dash receiver. Like, just chuck it in his general direction over and over, and he's going to be able to make a play.
Yeah, the play was made. Sometimes it's a Hail Mary, but it's a very faithful one. They have a lot of confidence in that toss, and Cream's able to catch it, get the touchdown, get the goal, get the win, game 1. But as we know, as we saw in the last match, these best-of-7s can be a bit lengthy. Still much of the runway to cross before we fly off and see a team fly in to Texas for May Madness, and quite the roundup of teams as well, Taco. I know you're well established with these CECC May tournaments. Northwood Blue and Davenport, definitely 2 teams that would fit in the fold of the competition there.
Yeah, right now, as things stand, we have pretty much, I think, like 7 of the top 10 teams in the nation already qualified for this, and we might have even more of them if a lot of the other qualification spots are able to be solidified, since there are several different leagues that feed into that CECC May Madness. Davenport certainly wants to be among them, and I would definitely say they are among that quality. They are definitively top 15, at times top 10 in the nation, and I think right now you see glimpses of that, but I think what we also saw about Cumberland, another team that's trying to live in that upper echelon of CRL skill, it's like you play 99% of the game fine, and then a goal like that from Creams happens, and you're like, well, that's the difference. And it routinely is the difference between really the win and a loss in a lot of these games and ultimately these series.
It's that discipline, that consistency that will pull your way through, and some of these players just hardly make mistakes. St. Clair were great at punishing those mistakes, and teams like Northwood are good at just almost forcing mistakes. It's like, oh, you didn't defend Creams there on that sidewall redirect? How dare you? It's like, no, is that really a mistake? Like, how was I supposed to suspect that? Well, Northwood are just going to be that team to do the unexpected and try to find their way into the top. Davenport, in a sense, I like their comment about going from top 15 to top 10, kind of switch from top 10 to top 15, I feel like, from the fall to the spring semester because of teams like Cumberland, even teams like Boise, who got Preston back to make that far push. Davenport have seen their own kind of changes. Brock recently had a surgery, I know, and was bouncing back from that. That's the reason we didn't see him in a recent CRL tournament. But the fact that they got here, the fact that they moved their way past Ball State should relieve a lot of doubts and convince people that they have the will and the competition to take this all the way, even against Northwood.
And that's the thing is that even when you talk to Cam, who's I would say probably one of the most confident players in all of CRL, regardless of really what his team is playing, like he will say is, yes, we do have the quality. And I think I agree with him that definitely any team in the top of CRL can beat a team like Northwood. But biggest issue that I often see come up is obviously that lacking in final quality, being able to put away these games, but also just being able to stay consistent with your work ethic and be able to iterate on different play styles. We talked about how Ball State's incredibly good. For some reason, Davenport in recent series, they kind of have their number. It's just a very weird niche thing where some teams, they'll beat everyone except this one particular team. And every other team will play amazingly, and then it just doesn't quite work. And they're definitely a team that is searching to be among the best. When this team was first assembled, I thought we really think that. But every semester, as you mentioned, we have new teams, new super teams really enter into CRL. We're starting to see Syracuse wind up their scholarship funding. So who really knows? Some of these bigger schools, they start investing in more. And it seems like every semester, it's not just good enough to be in the top 10 because there's about 15 to 20 to 25 really elite level schools that could all be in the conversation.
Comes down from every seed at this point. Even RLCS, we just casted Arju on St. Clair. He was on Team Evo. Being NA teams didn't expect him to be there, but yes, injecting into the top ranks of both professional and collegiate are these teams when it relates to the Davenport Northwood competition. I cast some high school in my home state here, Pennsylvania, Taco. So I'm waiting for the EU imports just here in PA, but maybe that's still some time to come. As folks, we appreciate you being as patient as possible to get into game 2. I know you're just as excited as we are. We're still waiting on word. There's a question about the server, I think, between East and Central, trying to get through on that. I know that Taco CRL kind of shifted. They had their East and their West. Now it's just normally played on Central, at least when it goes to CRL. I know CECC, though, with the LCQ, you could kind of go either way.
Yeah, it's kind of this weird situation because for some reason, we have Davenport and Northwood in the server, and Davenport is in Michigan, and Northwood is also in Michigan, which is in the Eastern time zone. But the thing is, all the Central servers are like in Illinois or Texas or something. So if we do a Central, it's probably better than most of the East Coast servers, which are in like New York City, Virginia, Florida type of thing. So it's like at a certain point, it shouldn't be this big of a deal. But we have, I think, Davenport's side saying that East is too laggy, whereas Northwood's side saying actually Central doesn't work as well as East. So I'm like, you guys are like 100 miles apart from each other. Like, certainly it'll be fine if we just do one type of server. There's no shot it's that different, but players are particular, and I don't blame them. They're playing for an opportunity to play at a LAN for a lot of scholarship cash, so it's tough to be able to truly make a decision on which one we're actually going to decide on. So waiting on admins to try to finalize this, just say we're playing on this and continue.
Yeah, so if you're there at home, you're waiting on this matchup, well, so are we, and hopefully we'll get it squared away very shortly. I remember hearing even on Tuesday, back when this qualifier run was still continuing, that Brock was on Wi-Fi, so he just really needed to have the right kind of server so that they weren't going bananas on connection. If you play the Rocket League game, if you switch to the wrong server, you'd know exactly what we're talking about. Fun fact, during the recent bug in Rocket League, I queued into OCE instead of US East, even though I had US East checked. So I know exactly how that feels. I know you need the right ping for the game. That is for sure. So you want Brock to feel activated. You want Brock to feel comfortable. There are times for Davenport and their black roster that I've seen Brock pop off. I've seen it be Brock o'clock. I did the Davenport team streams at that point in time. I know how it is. And finally, the players know what's up as well, folks. Thanks for sticking around. We got game number 2 finally underway.
Yes, and it looks like we do have everybody agreeing on a server, that server being Central still. So unfortunately for Brock, who apparently is playing from Texas, woe is me with this 32 ping, cough, cough. But regardless, you know, internet can be a fickle thing, and especially with all of these players trying to make sure they're playing at their peak performance. I don't really mind waiting, but I will have to wonder, is that going to cool them down? And if so, does that benefit Davenport or really do harm them?
Okay, there was one player that was ridiculously on fire in game 1, and it was Creams. So I think Davenport may be hoping that just that player in particular was cooled down. But at the same time, I've seen Northwood do 5 to 6 hour competitions, and they still pop off at the end of it. There may be no end to that reign of terror.
And as we're also getting a word, turns out we are not just going to be hard committing to one server. The compromise reached between teams is that we will try to swap servers every 2 matches. So after this one, we'll go to 2 East, then after that, 2 Central, and then we'll close it out, if necessary, on East. So something to play for if you need your connection to be in, and Cam, he knows that. Kickoff Merchant title, but that's an angle and a half.
The new title may work its wonder in a kickoff later. That one, lovely from Cam. If you really want to be meticulous about the whole server thing, I guess Davenport really want to win this game, as the next 2 games are going to be on East, and maybe the connection is not going to be great for Brock. We'll just have to see when we get there. For now, Davenport lead by 1.
And there's a second straight game to note that Davenport has come out and started in the lead against Northwood. Thing is as we've often seen, leads are kind of a dangerous thing. It feels like you're all secure, but then everything goes out the window, especially if Brock is trying to do that. Get a reset past that first defender, but still can beat the second. Zaniel trying to get cyberbullied, or at least avoid being shoved into a locker, and he's going to do some shoving of his own. You know, hurt people, Pyro.
I imagine it was more of a fraternity thing where they gotta get them inducted to the team. Zaniel says, really? I'm not on the team still? But he'll be great in the midfield for getting that challenge. Brock, not so much. That ball leaves him, in a respawning Davenport player lands right on the ball. Haven't seen something as timely as that, though it didn't help him in the end.
Yeah, it's got to feel karmic if you are Northwood. Like, really, of all places to spawn, it's fine. We'll just get it on the next pass. Flawlessly done by Creams to put it onto the bumper of Zaniel. And unfortunately, even when you have a player in goal, sometimes you're not expecting that pristine of a touch.
I feel like for Davenport, it's like RNG on your side. Potentially, I mean, that spooked both teams, and you still can't save the ball. What is it gonna have to be? You might just have to really outdo and outplay this Northwood team at every single step. That's surely what it's gonna take as we're reaching the halfway point. Game number 2, we're all tied up. That is a double commit for Davenport. This team needs to get a little more composed, especially with these bounce shot leading to Cam going backwards.
Clean clear away. Thing is, one clear doesn't really do the job, especially when Creams is trying to find that weird angle. Bolty's gonna lob that one right down, but I think he was playing for the 50. Had no other option. Northwood so speedy and also so controlled. Look at that back pass into the read. Backboard read for Brock. Was able to get that one away, but he's called to action yet again. Oh my goodness, the violence, the speed from North right now. Davenport caught in a vortex. They really needed that clear.
Yeah, their head's on a swivel. I mean, and it will continue to be 2 demolitions for hockey. Davenport averaging 2, maybe even 1.5 players at a time on the field. This amount of demos with the back passes, with the cheeky infield link-ups. Northwood are keeping Davenport on their toes, yet the scoreboard is 1-1, and Cam has a shot attempt at the net. That ball gets no forward progress until the follow-up from Cam. Bounce off the corner. Bolte there to ascend towards it, playing the next touch of hockey. Brock will be next, but leads it back to the ground. Some balls are just being chosen to land on the ground instead of taking the shot here for Davenport.
Well, it just speaks to the respect that every player has to have for the skill level in this lobby, where even when a read doesn't look like much, they know it just one little errant touch or one different communication to call out your teammate or ask for some assistance can dictate a lot. So no one wants to really dive in. Sometimes you have to, kind of like this one as Cam tries to shut down Creams, and he will not get that double, but it's fine. Zaniel is still lurking. Goal line save. Hockey cannot be denied. And there's the comeback for the second straight game.
Right on the turnaround, Northwood fire away. Just comes down to those last second lunges. Cam was inches away from dragging that ball from the grip of hockey, but instead, it'll be Northwood to grasp this game again.
Cam into Bolte, into Brock, and that is exactly how you answer back. He sees Zaniel and company kind of situated, waiting for a play, but they did not expect this.
No, and both on full boost as well. That speaks to how good the coordination and the comms were for Davenport. It's got to be crisp to move around those high-flying, quick players. Then again, for Northwood, they were a little bit stunted. Both players working on 0 momentum. Hard to read a tough shot on the other side, though. Zaniel wants to follow up with the same. Gets the second try. Cam on the squishy save. I don't know. He might have to change that kickoff merchant back to the squishy saber title.
At the very least, as long as he's getting plays, I think Davenport is going to be happy. He's trying to be really a thorn in the side of Northwood. A couple times now I've seen him dive in, got an ego chow, and I think sometimes if you just have a player who plays like a rabid dog, you kind of have to let him off the leash and just let him chase everyone down, or you just have Bolty lurking upfield, nice tap down, a deliberate miss into the pass.
And of course, naive I was, so distraught over the miss from Bolty, but no, the answer is always there. The Bolty-Brock combo in 16 seconds from getting a win on the board.
Really do like that play as well, just being able to know that he can get in front of the defender, and as long as it beats that first play, it should be scoreable. But of course, the kickoff is as well, up until Zanil gets sent into the next zip code off the bump. That didn't work off kickoff. How about something a bit less conventional? From the dribble, Hockey also slapped out of the way. Zanil has a lot of space. Everybody just playing prevent defense for Davenport, but this time it's gonna work out. Davenport turning this BO7 qual into a BO5 after Game 2 victory.
I don't know about you, Taka, but I was mentally preparing for a Northwood goal in overtime when Hockey got the sharp cutter on the first defenders, and too much space with Creeves trying to barrel into the last defenders. I'm like, here we go. Get ready for overtime. But no, Davenport in these sticky situations have actually come up with a cool head. Some nice passing plays to formulate a solid attack. And again, with the whole server thing, we're going to East now. I think it's good to have a win under their belt.
Yeah, and I think especially with being able to get a win like that, where you are facing pressure, yes, you're getting scored on, but you're finding passes to win the game. It's not just brute force, because as we talk about, Brock, Bolty, and Cam, three incredibly talented players. We've seen them across Collegiate Bundle Bash, kind of like those mix-em-up tournaments where we shuffle rosters. We see them in different qualifiers in their former schools when they were playing, and they all played well. But the thing is, sometimes you throw a lot of mechanical players in, it doesn't really work. It feels like Shane has finally got them into a play style in which everyone is kind of playing their roles, and I think most importantly, they're playing resiliently. I think it doesn't really matter how good of an offense you have unless your defense is at least keeping in a fewer amount of goals.
Yeah, Bolty often as well, that player that has to facilitate and be that third defender, but honestly in that game took more of an offensive position role, I want to say, as they were the one to get that last redirect into the pass for goal number 2, and working with Brock in awesome ways on attack. So really impressed with Bolty and the different roles that are being played there. And I think that's the effort that makes for a resilient and cohesive team. Is, yeah, they may have some distinct roles on the team, but at the end of the day, everyone's able to play the job that comes at face value with these games. So we'll have a tie series here, 1-1 in the CECC LCQ for a spot in May Madness. Let's get on to that new server for game number 3.
Yeah, it seems like that new server is actually treating pretty much everyone well. Brock is the one question mark as he switched to East End. He's fluctuating somewhere between 50 and 80, but occasionally it might go up a little higher, as he is also going to veto this one, I think, and say that is not going to work for him, as Neil is also backed out. I think we might be switching servers potentially again, as most of the players typically have a chance to veto within the first couple seconds before kickoff. As long as you, I think, leave before the kickoff really counts down. So unfortunate, but yeah, we are going to have to hop. These players incredibly particular about what's going to work for them.
It's funny, we almost saw the buzzer beater goal from Northwood, but instead we saw the buzzer beater disconnect from Brock right in the nick of time there to reset the server. So very well, of course, even with the server change over to East, you do want a valid and a proper connection with your Wi-Fi situation there in Texas. So we'll figure it out. Davenport, of course, this is an important match for them to win. There's clearly stakes on the line to get to Texas for the LAN. They've gone this far to get there. They want to take every opportunity that they can, but we talked about it earlier, Taco. It's kind of a grudge match as well. And Northwood Blue again and again in that Saturday run to get to the top 8 of CRL. Just put them down in the lower bracket. They've got a real chance of taking down Northwood Blue in a moment that matters.
And this is also just would be such a vindicating moment for a player like Cam, who for years, I mean, one of the biggest beefs in our esport was Cam versus Lion Blaze. They would kind of call each other out a little bit. They would subtweet each other from time to time. And it was really entertaining to watch, but it was really just born from the passion that those two players really embodied. So although Lion Blaze is no longer with us within the Northwood roster, or the school, we do still have Cam playing against a team that has repeatedly been a thorn in his side. He's one of the few players that can claim that he has beaten them in one of the most Madden games, national championship type of caliber, but it's one of those things where time to time, as the roster changes on both his end and on the other end, it's going to be a duke back and forth. And now we're duking it with the servers as well. So there's so many different interesting ways that we can have this one go. This is not necessarily the variable that you want tossed up in the air.
Yeah, we're not going to have it be tossed up in the air. Instead, we're going to get it intact. We're going to get it all situated for you guys. So instead of listening to us, we're going to take to a break real quick. We'll be right back with game number 3 and beyond for the CECC LCQ of Northwood versus Davenport. Hey everybody, welcome back to our beautiful faces. I know you want to get to the gameplay for today's CECC LCQ, but instead we have some other news. Players are finding the better facility to play from in a situation where the servers just aren't working too well for them. Per our rules, we're giving them that 10-minute timer and giving them a little time to change that station, and we'll get on to the series. So series still sits here at 1-1 between Northwood Blue and Davenport Black. Thank you so much for your patience. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
Welcome back, everybody. Right on
Game number 3. It appears that we're going to get a game through here. and then we'll have a little extra time to sort out the server situations. But Taco, in the meantime, we get to focus on Carball.
Yeah, at the very least, we don't have to look at the BRB screen as we go back and forth. We might have to look at it a couple more times than we're used to, but for the most part, I think just being able to come down and actually play this high-level game is not one thing. It's a highly unusual situation in Rocket League, a game known for very little downtime between games, and suddenly it's being added on in. So it's a weird factor, but honestly, this is just another one of those mental hurdles you just got to leap on over if you're a player at this level, kind of like Cam. Seems like he's still warm, though. Not going to find that double past the defense.
I'm personally ready for the new era of Rocket League. Give me 5-minute breaks between each game. Every player has to go through a ban phase of each car as well, cycling through a few different alternatives. Now, of course, we want to move through as quickly as possible. That's why Cam is setting up for Bolty, and oh, what a devastating moment to find yourself with no boost.
And it's also one of those moments where you think it's going to rebound off the crossbar. It doesn't quite in the angle you're looking for. Same with this one, as Hockey looks like an easy save, but honestly, very easy to rush that flip, and it goes into your own net. So he puts that one to the corner. Seems like everyone is reset on Davenport, which means Bolty might be able to get this read. No, in fact, he's not going to get it, and that's going to result in a eager Creams top shelf in this one.
One thing you can't do with these breaks is settle down Creams. Another precise shot top corner. Every other avenue was carved out by Davenport, but that one that split the seams.
And also just feel like one of those heartbreaking moments where you're thinking, okay, that's fine, probably going to be figured out in the end, right? Nope, you take your eye off and it goes right into your net. That's just the margins you have to deal with. I think Davenport are intimately familiar with that one, and hopefully they have at least some form of comeback, as they've been, actually the most part, ones leaping out into lead first in most of these games. This is the first time we've seen Northwood actually get the first one on the board.
That's true. Davenport used to setting the tone, at least in this series, and well, now the response is required. Cam's double tap on the side is just missed. That requires Bolty to play interception. Talked about maybe Creams being that wide receiver, but on the defensive end, it is Bolty just trying to cut through those passing lanes. Slice and dice Northwood at every moment they can. Well, it's hard to slice them if you got no knives in the kitchen, no one left on the Davenport defense.
I gotta see what happens here is that you see Bolty back, and he feels flips at the last second. I think panicking as he saw the ball bounce up. I think when the ball cam goes off and you hear engines revving behind you, you think it's just gonna go straight into your net, and sometimes you have to feel like you're maybe gonna have to dodge a bump. There's too many factors, and even the very best in CRL are occasionally gonna get a weird flip. Not gonna get anything back off the kickoff. Air dribble results in just one player getting slapped to the side, and now here come Northwood on yet another attack.
Bolty, though, time provided to settle in a little bit, the right way as they can. This is Cam turning in straight for that. Brock wanted maybe the cutoff. Is going to have to do it there above with the midfield. The flip reset gathered, and the late pass to Bolty. Now the cross to Cam. That one's behind him. Have to take up the side wall. One defeated, but Hockey maybe not as depleted as he needed to be. Boost gone, but still the vigor to remain in the play. Brock with a shot that gets sent away.
Neil, another deep one to be able to, I would say, be caught by Cam, but say he's going to throw it right back, and that might lead something a little bit awkward, especially now that Davenport has found themselves in a pocket where they don't have any pressure. Luckily, that miss goes in, so here comes the counter. Heavy flick. That's a tough one even for Brock. That's why he catches it into the reset, saved on the goal line again by Northwood. Ricocheting are back around. We'll find a kind of weaker clear in the midfield. Two players diving in on this one. Neither of them getting it. Surely a double tap. But no, a rare miss and a kind of rare break as well for Davenport's defense.
I feel like that gasp for me was so dramatic, but I was as sure as you were that the double tap was going to be locked in, and we'd have pretty much game 3 squared away. Instead, Davenport will have more shots to deny from Northwood. It's Bolty. See how much distance he can clear this ball with the pinch. Zanil says not as much as you had hoped for. Gets the interception there, and now Hockey's touch leads to Cream's air dribble. The last defender being hassled, bullied away.
And so after all of these awkward adjustments and server mishaps and change and everything, one thing remains. Cream's so good in the air, but of course this one isn't just made by himself. It is the harassment being dealt out by his two compatriots in Zanil and Hockey. They're so good at being able to dazzle you up front and then immediately knock everyone else out of the way. With so many weapons, and sometimes you just got to go the old reliable of car smashing into another car.
It does work. It works on either end of the field. That's how well it works. It is going to be Bolty to catch this one off the ceiling with Cam. Everyone else just gets to rummage around on the goal line. It's a good play out of the handbook of Northwood for Davenport, but you got to do it 2 more times.
Bolty trying to go for this one, and I thought I could see that one coming. Neither play was really truly playing the read. We're just going to be glancing all the way down, but in the final 30 seconds, it's doable for Davenport, but this is a situation where you really need a goal before it ticks down below 10 seconds. Otherwise, you're really going to have to rely on basically a kickoff or some miracle keep on up. But every clear from Northwood going to bleed off at least another 5-7 seconds.
And that's going to be just enough for Northwood. You've got the possession, you've got the closure into their own half, and they have certainly closed the door on a lot of otherwise promising efforts for Davenport. Northwood Blue, kickoff game 3, just right. So between all the breaks, between all the madness of the path to May Madness in Texas for CECC, Northwood end up right back on top.
And this is something where, talking to Northwood players, they said, well, we missed out in the Midwest qualifier, which is also where Davenport lost out on that chance as well to Illinois State, who went on an incredibly good run, probably the best one they've ever really had. And yet, you talk to Northwood and they're saying, it's okay, we got LCQ. Because they're that confident. But when you see these games trade back and forth, you're wondering, can you be that cocky? I think so. Creams across the 2 games that Northwood has won has 7 goals, more or less. So being able to really pop off in the way that he needs to doesn't seem to be too much of an issue.
Yeah, not whatsoever. And a little jibber jabber in the game chat talking about it. Is the ping really an issue, Creeps? Because you're kind of popping off in the server. If anything, he's just thinking, well, you can have a 10 out of 10, but why not an 11 out of 10? Must be in the minds of Northwood. And hey, when you're rated number 1 as a college team amongst your peers, well, you do want to host that potential. You want to crash through the ceiling in terms of your skill. But it looks like, regardless of all that, we're set for another game on this server. I'm not unhappy about it. Are you, Taco?
No, I mean, I'm happy to be able to see these teams play because I want to see how they respond. I think these awkward breaks, it gives you time to talk to your team, but after a while, especially if you're shifting location potentially, as that was debated among the players, it kind of does take you out of the game. It's not able to let you really focus in, but I want to see these players playing in their natural element because we're not going to be seeing this stuff on CECC main stage within the lands. Hopefully this is giving people good practice, especially with the passing plays. Davenport keeps them up, though. That goal line rejection by Zanil keeps things fresh, at least for now. Brock working their way through the corner, past one, not past Hockey. Cam, one more effort, but not nearly strong enough.
I did love that for Brock, though. It showcases in the corner of like, yeah, Cream's popping off. I'm really not scared, though. I'm still going to take on these 50-50s. I'm still going to do my best to get the advantage. My team do a better shot chance. That is the pass between Cam and Brock that left a little more to be desired. Additionally, that save from Bolty not connecting Cam at the dive on no boost. Precarious positions for Davenport to start out game number 4, including this, the double from Hockey.
Bang from Hockey as well. That's not even much of an angle. That's the defense covering pretty much all the likely scenarios. Okay, that's fine from an angle. Oh wait, that's Hockey on that one? Yeah, might as well just tick up the goal counter and reset to kickoff.
And what a play from Hockey. This player needs to pop off at any time, and they will. Wonderful work there on the double tap. Davenport just kind of putting themselves in these awkward positions on these misflips. That's yet another one that will leave them stranded.
And being able to get these breakaway goals is one thing, but it also just comes from a player maybe being a bit overeager or actually just maybe overconfident in the read. That ball bounced off the corner, and then as soon as you see Brock go for it, he realizes, thought that was going to be a little bit weaker. Sometimes if you can't see exactly where that corner begins, you think that ball is going to bounce a bit more middle and not out, and I think that's exactly what happened on that last play. A rough one to give up, especially in these games, increasingly becoming closer and closer to must-win for the side of Davenport. Neil mercifully going to miss that one.
We are really getting close to the death timer. It almost feels like the momentum shifts so heavily in favor of Northwood makes game 4 feel like it. But I believe in the bounce back, the rebound of of Davenport. Oh, but they're gonna have to save this shot from Hockey. I tried, Taco, but Hockey's just built different.
And really just a quality play. A lot of boost, doesn't even use all of it immediately because he knows he doesn't actually have to get around that one to the ceiling. Keep it close, off the ceiling, then off the backboard, and then in poor defense. They kind of knew what was happening, but I think after that first touch off the ceiling, they knew exactly where that one was going.
It indeed, from Hockey's point of view, he had a great idea of it as well. Taking a little pressure off of Creams for this game, saying, you know what, let's share the wealth a little bit. Davenport just trying to pick up pennies as they grab some boost and get a couple chances at the net. Cam's going to sling this around the corner, play this slowly, and honestly, great strategy because no one from Northwood was biting.
100%. This looks like a mistake, but really it's just smart play by Cam because as Hockey goes to this, he wants to leave it for Zanil, but then Zanil understands if he hits that, it's going right back to Cam anyway, so they both hesitate, and because of that, Cam just says, well, if I throw my car in, I might be able to angle this one directly past that near post. That's exactly what happens. Maybe a little bit of light for Davenport to be able to chase this game into, but for the most part, it's still going to take a lot of doing. Maybe through some bumps as Zanil's going to get sent out of the way. Bolte just going to test to see if Hockey, you still awake? It certainly is. Able to get that aerial clear to the side.
Maybe take him, put him in a funk as well. Just disrupt this rhythm, this drumming beat of Northwood. They're trying to beat them out of it with these bumps, with these harassment plays. 3.5 minutes still in, 2.5, excuse me, still in this game. Leaves for plenty of time for Davenport. Much more so when this was the scoreline in the last game. Cam doing everything he can to get in front of these shot chances of Northwood. Creams, though, had the read on the sidewall. Brock just gets the save.
Hockey light touch and could not be much lighter than that. So here's that. It will be a brief giveaway, but that's why everyone on Northwood is back. Even with 2 minutes remaining, don't want to give away any easy ones, and doesn't seem to be an issue so long as these clears keep going directly down the line and into Northwood players. The combinatorial play seemed like from the side of Davenport has evaporated somewhat in the essence of just Northwood starting to ramp up the pressure, hitting into open space, and I think Davenport at this point just needs a chase to get to the reads, much less actually have a plan once they get there.
Talked about with Cumberland, kind of the strategy being to enable next, and it feels like with Cam having 3 of the team's 3 shots in this game and the goal, maybe that is the player to activate here. Give him the rock, let him soar. Having a tough time doing that, stuck in their own end. Cam was ready for the counter attack, but unfortunately Davenport couldn't get it across. That pass to Cam also intercepted. Northwood closing the lanes for Davenport to turn this around.
Cam, nice demo. Problem is no more boost. Bolte is the only one with it. That's fake underneath, but the problem is it took so long. The respawning Creams gets the first save. Hockey backing him up, and now Cam is where you want him to cook. He's a star player for a reason. Back post pass, or maybe just a shot, maybe something in between. Regardless, it's still going to come to nothing. And there's another chance, unfortunately, out the window, but maybe they're gifted one right back. Open net chance. Another one off the bar. Bolte can't beat him. A golden opportunity, and no one's able to take it.
Just so difficult. I mean, the ball's so high, there's so little time to get to that shot. Brock probably had the best shot at it with that redirect opportunity, at least to get it in the hands of Cam. With under 30 seconds remaining, you got to think that was their best shot at it. Bolte still wants to try, double tap down. Brock is there in position. Cam as well. Final effort. One more touch from Bolte. Nothing will find its way between the uprights. And Northwood Blue, well, that will bring them from 2 games won in the series to 3. Unless I speak a little bit ahead of myself.
Cam scores from an impossible angle in the first corner, and then he scores from a crazy angle on the another one, and this is just one of those moments where he's saying, okay, most likely they don't have to touch this one, and if they don't, then I could probably get this shot off, and hey, might even have a shot at this game pending this kickoff. They're doing something pretty ordinary, but it's enough of a bounce to find Cam on the wall. Look at this setup. Hockey is already pre-jumping him. A 50. That's Brock to contain, but with no boost, he has to hit it middle, and he mistimes the flick. Northwood getting away with it at the end of game 4.
Oh, it was the right idea at the end. They almost took Northwood off guard there, as much as they did me, because I honestly didn't suspect Cam could score from that sneaky angle. But I gotta expect more of the unexpected from Cam. He's the hero. He's the one that ends up making it happen. 2 goals and 6 shots out of the 7 for the team there on that game. Wonderful job done by Davenport. You know, they kind of claw their way back in that one, but now it's Northwood Taco with 1 step away from Texas.
Yeah, this is no love lost between these teams as they're continuing to chirp a little bit, but that's the thing we like, the passion in collegiate esports. 1 game away from Northwood, really fulfilling what feels like kind of a manifest destiny with this program. If there's a large LAN that they are available for on the weekend, they're going to find a way to play it. And I really do love that Northwood does try to leap at these opportunities and not take anything for granted. They're not playing goofy. They're not pre-jumping each other. They're not going for clips. They understand that it is very much so, especially in this era, this past year or so since fall 24, every top team can be defeated by any of the other top teams, and not just within the top 3. It's really Davenport has been able to push the Northwoods to the brink at times, the St. Clairs, the Concords, what have you. So I do like how Northwood is taking this one incredibly seriously, trying to close out these games with style. And yet with Davenport, it has to be so frustrating that it feels like they're within grasp, and then right as they're about to be able to close that hand, it just slips away. So 1 more game potentially all Northwood needs, but Davenport needs 3 straight to snatch away a spot.
The long road. It was never an easy road to Texas. Davenport have done so much already to get to this stage. Defeating Ball State a couple days ago, and now having taken a game off of Northwood, they have definitely put some of the stones together across that treacherous river. But oh, how the rapids rage on. And Northwood, coupled with the great showing out of hockey in the last game, but all in all, the end-to-end performance from Creams has bested them so much. There's a lot to quell for Davenport to make their journey reliable.
Especially when Bolte is causing havoc for Creams. He doesn't jump in time, but Brock certainly does. The early lead yet again for Davenport.
Yeah, I think last game was the only time they hadn't done it, but more importantly, this is the shift Davenport need. Trying to set the tone, try to gain control in the game and push Northwood back.
I think being able to get those early goals is one thing, but it also just shows that they have to involve players. The teamwork from Davenport is really what has set them apart. Yes, of course, it is nice to be able to get a lot of boost and use a solo play and go forward, but I think especially in our last LCQ final and this one, we're seeing that it sometimes does take a village, and Cams is hoping for some reinforcements from that village. He's not able to get the first one, but that sets up to Bolte. Near angle double tap. He's getting bumped out of the way, so he can't even reach that read.
Yeah, not quite in reach there, but Brock's going to carry this from the corner instead. And Bolte challenging Hockey, and Cam has space here. Does defeat Hockey. Cream's last defender, just stretching for the save on the backboard. Nice angle on it as well, getting enough power to stop Davenport and eventually make them reach their own side of the field. Corner ball here tapped up by Hockey, and Brock would love to just find a teammate here. The midfield pass actually found, and Davenport giving a good go in terms of the back and forth.
Ooh, and Bolte has also been getting calm, saying, hey, Zanil's about to end your car's life, but no, he is able to actually continue on playing, but not really for much fruition on that play. Ball's just ricocheting around. This game has a certain chaotic feel that the rest of the series does not seem to have, but it's returning to orderly play, especially with that setup into Zanil. That's also saved on the near side. Cam quick to it, and a demo on the backside. Rotation means it's wide open for Brock for 2.
That's the way to do it. You said it was chaotic. Maybe it was finding order. But Zanil, actually the one to try to get back in rotation, was roadblocked by a Davenport player. Sometimes you just gotta lay your car's life on the line for the better of the team.
And it's one of those moments also that shows why people say, wait, why don't you just rotate wide and always take away options? Why do you always have to be tightly rotated with your teammates? Because one time when a player gets demoed and you rely on him to really secure the entire defense, it's going to be a gimme for the other side. Davenport in a game they really do have to lock in on are playing superbly. They're finding their reads. They're playing good on defense. And more importantly than not, I think they're stopped diving in. It's a lot more patient. And I think that's the one thing that's been kind of kicking them in the behind for a lot of these games.
And patience working here for Davenport. They kind of let Hockey cross the court with that air dribble, and Cam had that time to do the same again, setting up the roadblock that Northwood cannot get through.
I really do like this from Cam. I like his deliberate tap down the back post. He doesn't actually find it, but it is nice to see that the Cam effect was in effect on that one, as we're saying, hey, well, he's the playmaker. He's the one that Davenport's offense is going to run through, and yet he's the one with 2 assists, letting Brock and Bolte really be able to carry the offensive load here, and it might even get better if Bolte finds his way through. Reset, got to be immediately cyberbullied to the sideline.
Big creams now. Does get over top one. Cam finds clearance with every single clear that finds the midfield line. There's more seconds shaved off the clock. They've got to make sure, though, that that doesn't enable the attack of Northwood, so they can strike at any time. Neil's couple touches in the wall dash just to follow. He is incessantly attacking this ball, leaving no breathing room for Davenport.
Bolte's playing out of his mind right now. He's pre-jumping everything. He's getting the crucial saves on the goal line. He's able to pretty much lock everything down. Maybe he can have even more time in the spotlight. Yes, sir. Hockey had the pass, and he could not get to it in time. And play like that from Davenport is important. It's important to play predictively, but that is in a whole other conversation. Brock, 4th goal on the pre-jump.
Okay, I don't think I've seen this kind of pre-jumping since I watched maybe Boise State in every collegiate game. Durtho lives on the ceiling, but no, it is Davenport that live in the minds of Northwood this match, owning the pitch for game number 5.
That is absurd. I love those types of plays as well, because it's, you know, that they have to move forward as fast as possible. They're not going to be splitting hairs with some interesting, delicate touch. They're going to tap it forward, so why not pre-jump? 3rd goal for Brock on 3 shots. That's the efficiency you need to bring against some of the best to ever do it in the collegiate scene in Northwood. And right now, you would not know it if you're just tuning in and watching this game go down.
Talk about some of the weight off the shoulders as well of Cam. We've discussed in moments where he kind of puts on the cape, has to act hero, but in this case, you mentioned and you've highlighted Bolte on defense and Brock on attack. They are making this game look a little bit easier just from the team effort. That is going to be the combination of Northwood to nearly find the net. Neil's shot being wide means that they'll still be left with the goose egg as we get to the final seconds of this game.
Crazy deflection as well, but that's really all that's crazy about it with Hockey. He was able to get it in the first place, but yeah, nothing really kick-started for Northwood. 8 shots, so definitely they're not helpless on attack, but the defense has stepped up, and more importantly, the finishing is what Davenport needs. They had everything in this. They had demos, they had counterattacks, they had flip resets, they had crazy pre-jumps, and most importantly, they have another win, bringing it ever closer to continuing this series, but they got to keep it going.
You know, Taco, we could have just had a couple sweeps tonight. We could have had St. Clair go through, and we could have had one of these teams just catch 4. But no, instead we're going to go to at least game 6 with both matches. I know you and I wouldn't have it any other way. This collegiate competition, we talk about being so high level, so prolific, so enticing that even a team like Northwood Blue, where you always see that number 1 seed next to their name, maybe not always, I watch enough Champ League podcasts, but they can still get contested by these top 15 schools, top 10 at times. Davenport showing off that maybe they're a bit higher seeded than a lot of people are putting them.
And a lot of times when you're building a team, it's not necessarily you play a series and then you look at what you did poorly and then you fix it. Sometimes it really is a bunch of different play styles in different situations, trying to find a condition that works, also trying to find a way that you're able to get everyone on the same page mentally and the work ethic you need. And I think that's a testament to really what Davenport has been trying to do. Shaner's in the lobby right now, giving them live feedback, trying to keep them on task. And right now, maybe just in the gym as well, Cam muscles through the lead block. Northwood, what I thought was a guaranteed goal, instead just going to be deflected away.
3 assists from Cam in the last game. I want to keep a magnifying glass on his play style, see if he continues to play this facilitator role in those key moments. So far the role certainly still being played by Bolte on that defensive end. Brock, actually, the loft gets over Hockey. Neil left to play the ball instead, and nearly Davenport activating Brock on the attack.
It was a terrifying one as well because Northwood was going all the way back. Probably could still recover for the read, but you never really know, do you? Especially the same with Zanil and Hockey, both committing on this one as they're crisscrossing each other on the rotation. Deflection across to Bolty, pass to Cam, trying to cut in on the near post. Gets too far around it, just didn't trust that deflection instead.
Hockey keeping Cam on 2 wheels at a time and then doinking it ahead. You love to see the cheeky playstyle and then nearly the fake for the goal, opening the lane for Zanil.
That's a weird one as well. Creams lobs that one high, but Zanil's just chasing this one down. I think Cam tried to backstep this one so he didn't get landed on. So maybe he thought Hockey was going for the bump, but that's part of why you have to be attentive. If you're going to go for a bump, you know it'll delay the defender. And when that happens, you dive in. Looks like an easy goal, but it's really just a masterclass in timing and positioning.
It's only 1 goal, but it is a indication for Davenport. You just can't let this game slip away. We've seen how Northwood have punished on even the smallest mistakes out of Davenport. This is when you've got to be as consistent as ever, as clinical as ever. Bolty not only with the save, but he stays in front of the ball to deny the follow.
That's one of the craziest saves I've seen, especially with the drama of the situation, keeping it at a 1-goal game and maybe being able to march right down and get an answer. Bolty takes it to the ground. What a save, Zanil from the backboard.
This doesn't feel like Rocket League anymore. This feels like a boxing match with the most egos on either side. They don't just want to show each other that they can best these teams. They want to show the world. And that just might be what's done. Bolty is doing it on every end of the field right now. And Brock, well, he just wants to do just as much. There it is, the lead for Bolty.
I love this play from Brock because he has a reset. Zanil knows it, and so does their Hockey coming in from the left side of the screen. But he knows as soon as that first player challenges, I'm tapping, just be ready. That's why Bolty usually doing the wrong thing. You don't want to just linger underneath a ball because it slows you down, but he knows that he has the beat so long as Brock is able to time it properly. So well worked for Davenport again. And they're right back into this game as we're quickly approaching halftime. And Northwood's, again, I think at one point was a triple match point.
Absolutely. Yeah, down to double. And well, if Davenport continue what they're doing, we'll be going to single match point for both teams in game number 7. Davenport do seem stretched a little thin on their own end. That Cam will lunge this forward just to buy themselves a little bit of time. Well, Bolty just got, hit to the sky and nearly in position for the pass, but ended up backflipping. So that kind of extinguishes the otherwise fiery effort from Davenport. Brock has to lunge for this. He has to buy his second defender some time, but time wears thin as the bump gets through.
That is why fakes are the most impressive and also the most important when you have a player and you know it's a great option to pass. So Zanil keeps it instead, gets past one, and then at that point, it's just one defender in the way. Make it hard for him. Trying their absolute hardest to stay on the pitch on all 4 wheels, but not able to be done. Davenport's going to fall behind again, and maybe they can answer straight back as that was a crazy deflection, unfortunately for them. We're going to go well wide.
Demolition there, long clear. Brock's got to chase this. He might not have time. Zanil takes the entire lobby by surprise, scoring this goal.
That's a little bit too aggressive in my mind from Bolty. I think you can see Brock moving forward because if Bolty's calling a double tap, you have to trust in your teammate, and that's the downside sometimes if you don't get those reads off. It comes right into Zanil. He just claps that one downfield, giving away possession, but ultimately he also, I don't think, was aware that Brock was fully committing to this read, and now it's gone from an okay situation to now something that is a bit untenable from Davenport. They have to move quickly and efficiently, and they can't allow any cherry pickers. Hockey was trying to fulfill that role, but not able to get his touch. Maybe Creams can provide it. Double tap. No one's up for it. He's got a reset too to the back post, but maybe just even him doesn't have enough boost in his tank.
And you got to be surprised. I mean, Creams, it feels like he's done everything this series, and we were ready for more, but they just need a little more boost to enact on that flip reset and make it useful. In this scenario, though, it's going to be Northwood just trying to climb back towards the other side of this half with wall dashes and 50s galore. Even pinches to the corner are in store. Zanil, again with the wall dash, brings it down to the ground. Ground pinch towards the net, forcing the hand of Davenport. The respect is there from defense, but now they got to earn it on the other side.
Cam finding on to Brock, back past Zanil, man marking that one as he knew exactly where it was going to go. Problem is he gave it right up to Brock off the backboard. Bolty too far away, and now here comes the counter. Zanil pre-flip. Cam with the save, but he flips into it again. does get a beat over the top. Cream's going to be chased by Bolty, but no more boost. You can see the desperation really settling in on our red side.
Oh no, this could be the dagger, and it is. Zanil, he threads the needle, locks in nearly the win for Northwood.
I'm not gonna mention what has been put into our quick text chat, but let's just say Northwood is feeling pretty good about this one and wants Davenport to know about it. A dominant performance down the stretch, but unfortunately Davenport, you have the momentum, but this is exactly why we say against these top teams, you can take a couple games, but it is so difficult to be able to keep that up across 4 individual games in a best of 7. And it looks like Northwood is going to be cleaning this one up, and the destiny from what most people thought was pretty apparent at first. Took a while to get there, but we do have our 2 LCQ qualifying teams in to 2025 May Madness for CECC. It is St. Clair Green and now the Northwood Timberwolves.
Congratulations, Northwood Blue. We will see you in Texas at May Madness for CECC. Have survived what I would call the ultimate gauntlet, the last chance qualifier. Everybody that wants that shot to land gets a chance. And it was such a long and arduous road that it was broken up into 2 brackets. St. Clair Green had their gambit to run, certainly ending in their match against Cumberland, and Northwood Blue doing the same here, playing against a red hot Davenport that took out some tough teams on their end, but same as how CRL kind of went with these matchups. You mentioned the last 7 results, I think, favored Northwood. I guess we can make it 8.
Yeah, and it is a difficult thing to be able to see. Davenport might have a way to get through a lot of these different avenues that they have throughout different leagues that they might play in, but for the most part, these are the golden moments that you're looking for. A chance to be able to get right into the madness. You're not going through bracket after bracket after bracket. It all came out of this, and unfortunately, the record is clear. Northwood, I don't believe in this current iteration, has ever lost to Davenport in a series in any organized collegiate event, and this just maintains that, yeah, Davenport is getting better. We see exactly the avenue they could take or the play style they can implement to win, but Northwood is at the top for this very reason. They're so difficult to deal with how they adapt game to game.
It's like how I feel trying to get out of Grand Champ 1. I know you can't relate, Taco, but I feel like I'm getting better at the game, but everyone's getting better just a little bit quicker, and that seems to be the case for Northwood. In a game like Rocket League, that ceiling can indeed be crashed through. Don't forget here, folks, that on the Esports U broadcast, as we wrap things up for the CECC LCQ on the side of Rocket League, there's still some LCQ action to be had. Valorant LCQ hosted tomorrow night. Those matchups happening at 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern. I guess based on how those maps go, you're definitely going to want to focus on that. And of course, to where these 2 teams tonight had qualified to CECC May Madness in Texas, May 2nd to 4th. You don't want to miss it. And we're so glad you didn't miss these LCQ matches here tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in from my side, from Taco's side, and from Colton in the background, making all things beautiful on production. We'll see you next time.